Hello everyone, Kenji Tiger here with Bengali Engineering and Play. We are back in Space Engineers doing the second Survival Series 2. And we are kind of modifying some previously built items, which I just thought were cool. So I'm going to keep them. And we're trying to kind of rebuild the concept into something a little different, which was actually what this tower here was all about. So this tower is a replacement for what used to be under here, and then eventually we will figure out how we're going to attach the tower onto probably this thing here, in fact. Um, so we're in modify mode. Now, one of the things I really need to do, which is going to be a little bit of a challenge here, is this thing does not have any power currently, so none of the doors work. Now, granted, I could just cut through the doors and not have a problem with that, but in my patented style here, we're going to put on a battery that has this hideous color, so we can eventually grind it down. And we're going to go over to number 2 here, which is a Kenti battery, and staple on a battery onto the side here. So first, let me spin it around the correct way. There we go, and attached it. All right, so we have green, which is a good thing. We have apparently some issues with air, so we're gonna have to figure out what that is because, well, those guys may just not be powered. So we'll figure all that out. We have lots of things attached here. Ultimately, this square right here, this block right here, and the one on this side, which is to say 3 apart from one another, is ultimately going to be where, let's go ahead and float up here to the top, where the elevator shafts come through. So as you can see here, we have elevator shaft. Okay, so this is in fact the number 1 elevator shaft and the number 3 elevator shaft, and these got named because if we look, yeah, it's actually, I was going to say, oh, this thing right here, wait a minute, that's way too close. It's actually that one way down there where it says Kenti Large Antenna. That affectionately called the station junction. One of the station junctions there. This one is the scaffold junction. But the station junction here, I basically had the concept, and it's all like, okay, well, ultimately I have to send the elevator shafts through here, so how I'm going to do that? And it ended up being 3 apart. So let's go ahead and go down here and just have a look-see at this. Because actually we did the same thing here. So actually I have to correct myself. This was the first of the large blocks built. So this was where we originally did that. So we have the 3 across in the center, so basically a 3x3, a 9 grid, and then these 2 are slightly on the outside. So basically a big scaffold. So this thing was designed and built afterwards, or rather this one. This was the first, this was the second iteration, which basically has the build and repair system in it, the nanobot build and repair system by Dummy 08. And then this guy here was built afterwards, which was a glass junction, which put all the different conveyor systems in and back out in their famous style. So let me see. Ultimately, going up to the top here, this thing is going to attach on obviously a 5x5 grid, and we basically attach onto here. So ultimately, this is go ahead and get over and pull out my grinder, and ultimately this is the block which needs to be ground through, and this block needs to be ground through, which ultimately is going to be elevator. So in this case, it's the elevator filler that I need to put in here. We're going to paint this tiger orange. This particular grid, in this case, is obviously it's unfinished. What color did I have these things? They're orange. They change colors as they come up. So this has a door here, but ultimately I can't put a door there. The door that, and let me show you why. Ultimately, well, I guess I'm a little incorrect in that. I could actually put a door there. Now, will that door function entirely how I perceive it to? So right now, I think that door is right here. I think, which means we're gonna have to move. Okay, this is because that's lower than this is. I'm getting lost. So ultimately, that door is in this corner, which would put it over here in this corner, which actually it's more logical to have it in this corner. So basically, what I would do is put a staircase here. So let's go ahead and do that. Do I still have? I got rid of it. So let me pull it back out here for a second. So ultimately, we would need to put that here, which is really to say I need a transition mechanism that is also an airlock. So what I think I will do is be a little bit creative here, and we will put obviously there's going to be a block here, so logically we're going to go ahead and put a junction here. Had to pick it. Put a junction here because this is the transition upwards. This here we really could just put a block, or if I really kind of wanted to be a little more creative, then I'm gonna make a hole here, and let me show you what I've got in mind here. So what I need is glass. We're gonna put glass there. And then a door here, and I need to rotate this door around the correct direction, which is here. So here's the idea, is that this door here, so I get to the top of the stairs, and then this door is actually the observation deck, and this happens to be the outer door for the observation deck. So the inner door for the observation deck is actually on the observation deck still, or rather we're going to create it there. So once again, this guy, I need to take ownership, so let's go ahead and say me. Let's go ahead and just verify. So we highlighted everything. We see that the owner is still me, so we can turn that off, and then we will go ahead and put that into the sliding doors, which is a save, then a toolbar config off, and a terminal off. The doors are open, but the doors are closed, so we can actually verify by going sliding doors, open, close, and just to make sure those are closed. So here we are at the top of the staircase here. This ultimately will be the connection point in, and we have created ourselves this little isolated place here. less one tiny thing that I forgot. So this is actually open to below. So I actually want to create a completely sealed environment here. And the way I'm going to do that is actually to put down a catwalk plate, which will be right there. So what I've basically done here is create an isolated space. So effectively, when this door opens, it's going to be into an isolated space, which happens to be above. So there's going to be another door sitting right here in exactly the same position as this one over here. Or rather, in the same orientation as this one here, but be right here instead. So let me pull out my grinder. That was weird. And take this out, and take this out, and then we'll go ahead and put, let me check. This is actually a heavy armor block, so let me replace, ultimately all this is heavy armor blocks, which is different than what I have been using. That's still okay, but a little bit overkill. So we can deal with that later on. So bar 8, and then I'll take a heavy block and put that in here. In fact, that is a heavy armor block, so we'll go ahead and do that. It is indeed the same color, which is good. So back to toolbar number 1. We're going to put the door in here, so we have to rotate that around to the correct direction. And it's really kind of arbitrary which way the doors slide. I'm going to put them that way, just because. There is the control panel here, so we're going to rename this door to let me get my dash in there, observation deck inner. Okay, so this is actually going to be the opposite of the other one here. We have turrets, we have seats, we have sliding doors that you see here, control stations, connectors, and in this case we have things called air vents. So let's go ahead and look and see what those are. Air vent tower. So we're going to go ahead and change the names of these to observation deck. Let's go ahead and call that A, and observation deck B. Observation deck B. So these are called air vent section 5 because that was the original, and we're just going to put these into a group called air vents, because ultimately that will be the same as what we had before. So ultimately this group will merge right into the others, which will make it all very simple. And we're going to delete that one. So air vents. These are the antennas, the laser antennas. I think these are stock antennas. Yes, they are, which are not doing anything. Interior light, this is actually the antenna beacon. So let me go ahead and just to make sure, we'll change everything to me, and then close that back down. So we have all of these different things. There's an antenna up here, which ultimately we're going to change the name on this. This is so we called the bottom one origin base because that's where I landed originally. Huh. Trying to think of a good, practical, applicable name. I was thinking transition based, but transition kind of can be interpreted in so many different ways. So, so temporary name, I think, temporary name, and we'll go from there. Okay, sliding doors. So we're going to go ahead and add that one into the sliding doors group, and then obviously off and off and closed, even though I really do need to go through that door. Although I do have 2 elevator shafts open, so that's probably fine. So we could actually say kind of beacon observation deck. Now, one of the things I want to change here is we're going to make this red. So we need to actually turn those down. We have a bright red. We're going to send this out as far as it can go, and we're going to turn the intensity all the way up to quite a bit low. Then we're going to change a blink interval here. I think 2 seconds would be just fine. And then blink length, we're going to put this up to 20%. All right. So let's go ahead and just for fun look at this. So here's the beacon. So that's a 2-second blink interval with a 20% duty cycle. So I think that's adequate. Obviously, from a long distance away, you're not going to be able to see that, but that's okay. All right, so we have the 2 elevator shafts. In this case, just to make sure I'm oriented correctly, this is the number 1 shaft right here. So I'm going to put the doors are technically facing inwards. So let's go ahead and this really is the top. So I need to face that the correct direction, which is that one. So top. So this becomes elevator 1 top. And that's going to be owned by me, and I probably shouldn't have bothered doing that because I have more things to build in here. And then this over here becomes the elevator top, which is in fact elevator 3. So we'll do that here. Elevator top. This is actually elevator. Let's do it that way. And we're gonna not bother to change headers on everything because. All right, so strangely enough, these look like they're turned off. And I really don't know why they're turned off. So let's go ahead, air vents on. Okay, so this space is indeed sealed, which is a good thing. There are, and this I think worked out well. These control panels, you can still get to them. So I really did not need to move them, which is a good thing. We do have we do have an airlock here. So what I think I'm gonna do, just by convention, is this is observation airlock lower, inner, and the reason why I want to do that is we're going to go ahead and change the name of these guys up here. So this is upper airlock inner. So we're going to go ahead and change these to observation deck, airlock upper, and this one of course is called the inner door, and then we'll change this here in the same fashion to observation deck, airlock upper, and then this is the outer door. So that way we're sticking with the same conventions, and then ultimately we need to change the one over there. So elevators, we're right now leaving all the elevator doors. So what I could actually do is top observation deck, and I don't know if this has to have the name top in it. I really don't. I doubt it. I think it's all scripted to identify something within within the mechanism of the mod. That's my guess. But I'm going to go ahead and name that. If I break it, then I will have to unbreak it once I figure out how everything goes. Now, will I ever use these antennas? Probably not, but I'm going to go ahead and leave them there. So we're going to go ahead and change the names on these. So this was the hostile environment base, and now this is the transit station. So we'll just go ahead and say transit station laser antenna 1, transit station laser antenna 2. So make it really simple. The range right now is set for 50 kilometers. We can go out to, whoa, infinite. That's new. So let's do that. That's obviously that's going to be a power thing. So it's idle right now at 186 kilowatts. This is another complaint I have with the game, is the designers clearly do not know how much a kilowatt is. So a laser that consumes 186 kilowatts. So let's put this in relative perspective. Most homes, just single family homes, have a 25 kilowatt transformer. Okay, so put that all in perspective. So 186, so we're 15 shy of 200, which means we're 15 kilowatts shy of 8 family homes, all for a laser antenna that's idle. So anyway, think about that one for a little while. All right. I don't know if we need to do anything else. We have the beacon. I'm thinking about deleting that word antenna, but maybe I'll leave that. Candy battery, which is going to go away. Transit station. We do have another antenna that is not there. All the seats. We have the turrets. Gatling. Oh, excuse me. Missiles. Okay, so we have both of those. We have connectors up here. We have air vents, control stations. So those are all simple group names, but they will be consistent over the course of the station building here. So I think we are mostly done here. Obviously this thing does not have air in it, but what I think I will do, just for sake of convention, is actually put a tank. So let me find, oh, there's some thunder. Tank, let's go ahead and find oxygen tank. We're going to put that there. We are, kill that. Set this guy upright. I don't know that there's any reason to turn that in any direction versus any other direction. So we're going to do it like that. Obviously there's nothing in it. One of the other things we need to do in this particular space is change the colors. I tried to do this offline and I goofed it up. So we're gonna change all of the seat colors here to match. So let me just go through here and change all of these. I've changed all the windows on the bottom, I think. But I do need to change these 3 windows on each side because you can't get to those from the outside. That one, that one, that one. Alright. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that should be about right. 1, 2, 3. I think I got all 3 of these. That one. I'm just kind of keeping track of what you've done and what you haven't is always kind of a little bit of a challenge, especially when you change some convention of some kind, such as colors. This was my tiger orange actually started out as being orange. In the DirectX 9 world, which did not have quite as robust colors, I guess, is how it worked out. So 1, 2, 3. So those are done. Did those already? Okay, I'm not seeing any windows that are an issue. And then lastly, I think, is the 3 windows here. All right. I think everything has been properly transitioned over to Tiger Orange. At least that is the appearance. So with that having been said, alright, so the door is where it's supposed to be, the shafts are where they are supposed to be, the elevator floors, so car termination points, I guess, are where they need to be. So all that is left now, I think, is to actually take this item. In fact, let's go ahead and do a quick save just because. We're going to go ahead and do, let's do a Control C and copy this rather than actually delete it and put it somewhere else. Then we'll drag this up to the top here, and we will position downwards. And yeah, of course it's not going to paste on there correctly. Why would it? So, option 2 is let's go ahead and whoa. What happened there? So we'll paste that in the same direction as this one, so I don't screw up my elevator shafts. We'll go ahead and Control X this one, Control V, which looks like it completely tweaked everything. So we'll put it back in the right direction, and then we'll see if we can paste it, which it looks like we can. So with great faith, we will paste it. So now the truth test is to do a Control C and paste, and sure enough, we now have a completed tower. All right, so Control X, we'll get rid of that. So we have a little bit more challenging to see, but we can see how this transitionary thing actually ended up. So we have the door here and then another door there. Now the only thing we do not have, which may be of benefit to us, is a door at the top of the tower. So, and what I mean by that is some form of exit from this tower that would let us go out underneath the observation deck. In this case, we have to transit from the tower, or rather the top of this tower, into the observation deck and then out the airlock above. So in this case, the only way we could really do anything would be to put a airlock right here. And the problem with putting it right there is we only have room for the one door. So the other door would have to be sticking out here. So not an ideal situation at all, which means we may not be able to accomplish this how we thought we could. Now the other option which I considered would be to actually remove one of these corner windows. So one of the things you notice here is the way, oh, bang, the way this is designed is it's kind of across, and then I have these transitionary points. And why did these end up this high is because this window is actually on the top. And speaking of windows on the top, those are still the old Tiger Orange. So let me fix that. Huh. In fact, these are the old Tiger Orange as well. I thought I got all those windows, but clearly that is not the case. Wow, I missed 6. So did that mean I missed these as well? No, apparently not. So it was just those. All right, let's have a look. See, did we miss everything? The sunlight changes the colors a little bit. So it looks like we're okay. Yep, looks like we're all right. All right, so the last tiger orange window there, and I think that's it. So again, what we could do is actually move this window over here and then keep the convention. The issue here, of course, is that I couldn't put this angle piece, this corner piece, right down on top because this window actually is that block. So that was, oh, you know what? It does look like I could paste that in, which means, once again, I'm full of shit. So apparently that window was facing down. But I actually don't mind that being that way. My only complaint and or argument is really about this this door. So I'm going to go ahead and make some changes here. We're going to go ahead and pull this piece off as well. Pull the door is going to come off. This door is going to come off. Everywhere else is a block. Yes. So let's go ahead and in this case it's a heavy armor block. So we're going to go back over to our heavy armor block, which should still be on. Nope, I took it off. So we'll put it back on here. So 8 is my everything, my catch-all. And I really only have the one toolbar because everything else is my standard toolbars. So, heavy armor block, we'll paste that in. And then we will actually do the two blocks, in fact. So there and there, which thankfully will cover our conveyor in the back. And then we're actually going to go over to this corner. And the reason I go to this corner is because the door that comes in is actually right under this one. So we'll go ahead and take that one out, which of course should, if everything goes well, turn these to yellow, which it did. And then we're going to go actually in the hole we just created. And we're going to go back to toolbar 1, door number 8, and we're going to rotate this around the exact same way, which is this way. So there's the outer door, and then we will flip the door around. This one's going to be painted tiger orange, and we will flip that like this. So both of these obviously are open. So we're going to K. We are going to unhide everything. That's a Control A. We're going to change to me. That way there are no permissions issues. We'll go ahead and turn off this. In this case, you see now we have all of these different things: air vents, elevators, air vents, which all magically became merge groups. So all those groups merged together, which is exactly what I want. All right, so sliding door 4, sliding door 5 in this case were the other doors. So let's go ahead and sliding doors. Okay, we're going to go ahead and turn those on so we can see them all. We exit and come back in, even though they have changed. So everything comes back in. So these are all these lower, these are the ones at the bottom. Okay, so these are, so the station top. This is the observation deck. And remember, we changed this to an airlock lower. outer. Okay. Um, so at the same time, we put the outer door in first, if you remember, which is going to be observation deck, airlock upper, and that is the outer door. And so let's go ahead and highlight this, Control C. Then we'll do the same thing here with a quick paste, and this is the upper inner door. All right. The other thing we need to do is to highlight all of these. We're going to go ahead and Control left click, which will bring up the group, do a save, which will then put those two extra doors back into the group. We're going to turn the we're going to do the toggle, which is going to force everything on, then force everything off. We'll do the same thing with the terminal here. Force it, it's on, but we're going to force everything off. So on, off. What else do we have here? We have all of these. The medical room will go away. This is now the tank, oxygen, observation deck. Okay, so we're trying to name everything conventionally so we're consistent. At the same time, even though there's only one, I'm going to go ahead and call this tanks oxygen, because that's the convention that I use. So in this case, save, and then we're going to off, off, and off, which will pull that off of the menu, but it will keep this tanks. Where'd they go? Tanks, there we are. Tanks oxygen. So even though there's only one tank in there, that's a group for oxygen tanks. So in this case, that group will merge with, once I attach on the glass junction, which has 4 oxygen tanks, ironically enough, in a group called tanks oxygen, then those will all work in there. The small reactor is going to go away. The container is going to go away. Both of these batteries go away. So, and in fact, the medical room will go away. So all 6 of these items will go away. All right. So now that this is here, this is called station upper tower. We could just call it station top, but we're going to go ahead and call that station upper tower. It is already a station, so I don't need to worry about that. A station is inherently stationary, so it actually, there's a lot of, so there's 2 things in the game that are stationary, is stations, which you can set as a station, and voxels. Voxels are always stationary, can't move voxels around. So the nice thing about it, whenever you move a movable grid into a voxel, it becomes, it becomes a station, effectively. So it no longer moves. All right. There is no inventory up here. There are no items with inventory. And you noticed I turned off the inventory in the oxygen tank. I turned those off. You have to actually set those to receive any kind of bottles. Bottles are the only things that can go in there. So I turn those off because I don't want anything in there. My oxygen generators can fill bottles, so that's all I want for that thing. All right. So the only thing left to do is to grab this doors sliding and toggle so everything closes. Now, if I did everything right, then we should have now a green light on here. The only reason this is not green is because I do not have an oxygen supply. Okay, no oxygen supply anywhere. So that was oops, but it is. So green and green, which is good. All right, so this is the outer airlock. So the transition all the way up to the
Energy
top
low.
means I have to come into the observation deck, which I can do either by elevator or by here, and go there. Which is, don't know if that's good or bad. Probably neither. All right, so the next thing we do, I'm gonna do this a little differently and use my cheater. Okay, so no real reason to keep this anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and X and delete. I'm going to go ahead and X and delete that because that is all there. And this guy, I'm going to change direction just so I don't have the sun in my face. And then I'm going to do a Control B and verify that that actually went into the world here. Station upper tower. There it is. Okay, so it is indeed there. This station upper core was the original. So if we want to look at that really quick and see how far we have come. So here's what the original looked like. Obviously we took most of this top portion and we completely revamped this tower. We added stairs into it. These were the original tunnels that went out to the outside of the station. So this was the tower section out of the hostile environment base. So what I did was just literally chop the middle out of this thing. So this was the upper deck. This was the ceiling here. So 2 layers deep. And this bottom portion was, in fact, the deck. So the floor, which was also 2 layers deep. So hostile environment base. So all of this was, in fact, designed for that. So stealing the top, the Christmas tree topper here was, I just think it looks nice. I like the way it looks, so rather than reinventing the wheel, just keep it and repurpose it, which I think is grand. Okay, so this can go away, no more need for it. So we have this copied in. Obviously the purple things will go away. Let's go ahead and remove the battery off the top now that this is connected in. This battery serves no function. So we'll go ahead and run down here. We'll put all the junk in this container.
Energy
And
critical.
then turn our grinder off. And then, oh, there we are. That's what we want. And then recharge. Now, if I were really being intelligent, I would do some interesting things like put batteries in the deck. And I think we will go ahead and do that. So no real easy way to do that unless I were to do that down here. And I could do that down here very easily, just put a whole series of batteries. Nothing wrong with that idea. I tend to actually put batteries into places where either they're hidden or it's gonna otherwise be dead space. So what I think I'll do is change these blocks out for 3 batteries. So let me go ahead and look and make sure I have a standard battery, which apparently I do not. So let's go ahead and take a standard battery and put it out here. We'll kill the oxygen tank because I don't think we really need one. Although Um, I'm gonna change my mind. So tank, oxygen tank, and here's where I'm going with that. So first things first. So let's go ahead and do the batteries. I'm going to spin this battery around the direction that I like, which happens to be that. So we're going to put a battery there. I'm going to put another battery right there and another battery right there. Now, we are ultimately, we're going to have to change ownership because I did do the copy paste on that. Okay. Let's kind of hide in the, oh, I can't hide in the corner because that is a window. But oops, that was an 8 and a 5. The oxygen tank, so I'm going to delete that one and delete that one. And then we're going to put our oxygen tank in here, and I think we'll leave it oriented like this. Now, why did I do that? Oxygen tanks have this. All right, I should be all right there. And what I want to do is zoom up to the next thing because my oxygen tank actually was between these guys. So I need to go up one more level. Maybe it wasn't between them. How did I do that? Oh, I know why it was between. Because it was actually underneath, it was at the base. So it really actually needs to be under the lower one. So we'll go ahead and do that. So here, and we'll put that in the exact same orientation. And add tanks. Alright, so up to the next tank. So the real question is, do you have the patience to fly all the way up these stairs, or is it just more simple to take the elevator all the way to the top? So, and kill that one, and kill that one, and then paste in the oxygen tank. And I think, if I recall correctly, I have one more set at the very top. Kind of pointless in a way. Because, so here we are, that makes me dizzy. Kind of pointless because we do have an oxygen tank, just on the other side, of our observation deck. So we're at the top. We've taken the journey all the way up. Let's go ahead and make sure observation deck lower. Yes, indeed. So we now have battery. What did we called these? So these are all the ones going up, right? So air vent, tower A. I'm gonna go ahead and do the copy paste. So C. This is going to be called tower B. Tower C. Tower D. Tower E. F, G, and H are the next ones. So by that convention, our first battery will be tower A. Then, in fact, tower B and tower C, and we're actually going to put a couple batteries in the deck above. So that's a C. Again, the Kenti batteries are not going to be here. The original oxygen tank. So we have not created a battery group for this grid. So batteries. Of course, the issue is they're not owned by me right now, but we're going to add a few more things, so I will do that after the fact. Okay, so we have all the oxygen vents, the air vents. So in this case, we just want to make sure we have them all, which we do. They are all highlighted and all ready to go. So I can, in fact, turn those off, which is exactly what I wanted to do. And then the batteries, in this case, are all here. Let's figure out how we want to add in the batteries up here. So if all goes well, eventually, because we have a window here and a deck plate here, and then window and window, this is actually a sealed compartment. So this should be more or less a vent. And if we really wanted to get creative, whoa, I'm turning sideways here. If we really wanted to get creative, we could actually put the window on this side, put an air vent here, which in fact would then be the air vent inside the airlock, which might be kind of interesting. All right, so this is, did I put that? Am I right side up or upside down? I am upside down. Look at that. Okay, so this is the one into the tower. This is the one into the observation deck. And that will close this. All right, so if I were to have my druthers here, I would say 4 batteries. And why do I say 4 batteries? Because I love batteries. Batteries are just, I mean, they add a lot of weight. But really, when you're building a station and you have just a lot of blank space, batteries are a great thing. They are pricey, and what I mean by pricey is resources. So here let's look at this: 80 power cells. Now 80 power cells is a lot. We're going to put that one in there. I'm going to put, obviously you see I changed the rotation there, and we're just going to continue on around. We're going to rotate this. And we have to find what axes we're moving on now, and I really hate that. This is why I don't think your orbital axes should never change. They should remain the same. It should be irrelevant where you are versus the object. And again, this is Keen being Keen. They do things the way they do things because that's the way they do things. All right. This is D. C, D, E, and then F, and G. There we go. All right. So turn off hidden, which is to say unhide everything. Control A to select it all. Select transfer to me. Yes. Rehide everything. Batteries. Now if we look, we only have those 3 batteries in there. So we're going to go ahead and highlight. So that's a left click, shift, left click again. Roll up to our batteries group. Control, left click, and save. And that will add all of those in there. So with that highlighted, it is actually still highlighted. Let's go ahead and discuss these. I've done this before, but I leave all of these unchecked. And the reason I leave these unchecked is semi-auto, if we look at here, sets to recharge when stored power is 0, sets to discharge when the power is at max. It is not doing anything else. It is absolutely on discharge. It is absolutely on recharge. I can't count the number of times I've been in a ship. I wander my way into battle, and all of a sudden my batteries go to recharge. And unfortunately, when your batteries go to recharge, they will take everything off the grid. Everything. So you can't fly, you can't move, you can't fire your weapons because the batteries are taking everything. Okay, so the reason I don't like semi-auto is exactly because of that. It's all or nothing. You are either discharging, absolutely, you're not taking in anything, or you're recharging and taking everything off the grid. So it's an all or nothing thing. So batteries, and let's go ahead and look at battery A. Okay, so current input is 4 megawatts. Okay, so we are maxing. In this case, the reactor is far, far beyond that. I think it's 5 gigawatts for the Kenti reactor, small Kenti reactor. So 4 megawatts. This is a normal battery. My batteries are 10 for this. So max store power ultimately, but we store. So 1 megawatt. We ultimately need 4 megawatts of power, or rather 1 megawatt hour. We store 4 megawatts. We input 4 megawatts. But one of the things to notice here is while we're in normal mode, okay, so not semi-automatic, fully manual mode, our current input is this, but we are actually putting power out onto the grid. Okay, so it's not much, but we're putting power out. So it's also telling me how much stored power is. So we are going to be charged here in just a very, very little time. So this is the goal, and we are really, really close. So once we get to that 1 megawatt hour, we're there. So the neat things here, so if I click this over to recharge, you'll notice this goes to 0. Okay, so it is not putting out anything on the grid. Likewise, if I go to discharge, I'm not taking in anything at all, but I'm discharging. So by going into basically manual mode, then this will charge until it reaches the top, and then it will continue providing what it always has been until it drops down to a certain percentage, and then it kicks in again. It just takes what power is available on the grid, and it's in this constant cycle to stay at 100%. Now, here's why I like that. When my uranium happens to run out because I totally forgot about it, so my reactor power goes to 0, but my batteries are at 100%. So that's good and bad. It's good because they're at 100%. So I all of a sudden realize, ooh, I have a problem. But it's a minor problem because all of my batteries were all the way at the top when everything went. So here's another thing to observe. Now it's in this endless charging cycle, right? So we're putting a little bit of power out here, but rather than this 4 megawatts, I'm just maintaining. So it's just a little bit of power, which happens to be twice my output when it starts. So 101.8. Well, close. So my calculated about twice. And then it scales itself down until it's fully charged. And it keeps doing that forever. Not taking all the available power off the grid like it does here, It's already all the way up. So normally in a recharge cycle, if it goes down a little bit, once you go into recharge, it will take everything. Max required input, it goes to max. So it will steal all available power. It will totally max out your reactors, however many you have, and you're dead in the water. So not a good thing. That's why I always leave all of my batteries on basically manual. So don't use semi-automatic. I highly recommend against it. Okay, batteries. So in this case, all of my batteries are selected. They are all owned by me. I'm going to turn them off on the toolbar and off in the terminal. So we'll just keep these things here. All right, oxygen tanks are left, so let's go ahead and do tanks oxygen. We'll turn them back on. So we should see this one oxygen tank. So this happens to be the observation deck, but we're going to change the convention here to, let's go back to the beginning of this. So we're going to call this oxygen tower, and this happens to be tower D. Okay, and how did I derive that? So let's back up here. We're going to do a control C there. So I killed the first one. So it's not oxygen tank 1 because this actually was oxygen tank 1. So this is oxygen tank A. So we're going to do a control A, a control V, and this is called A because this is in the tower portion of this. Doing the same thing. This is B. This is C. And then D. Okay, so we have now 5 oxygen tanks, which is way overkill given this tower. But again, it's, you have to have oxygen tanks within a certain distance of air vents. So I want to make sure I'm within that distance. So we'll roll back up here to oxygen tanks, control, left click, do a save, and then we're going to do toolbar, inventory, on and off just to get rid of it, and then toggle off. Alright, so the only things really left are the 2 elevators, and I'm going to leave those ungrouped because, so we do have the elevator vents, which are there, so those are all fine, but we're not doing the actual elevator landings until I fully assemble the station. The medical room is going to go away, the small reactor, the elsewhere container, and the battery. So this is really all that's going to be left. And what I really could do here is systems miscellaneous, which is another convention that I use. Systems, I name a lot of things systems, and that way they're alphabetized in the list. So we're going to go ahead and put that as systems miscellaneous, and then do the same thing. So we're going to turn that off on the toolbar and turn that off. So there's one more thing out of the universe here. We're going to leave that antenna. That's the main antenna, which is going to be way up here at the top. There is actually another antenna. So if I do antenna, this is my antenna beacon, or my antenna spare, which is out here also off the observation deck. So let's go ahead and change the name of that observation deck, just so we can see where that is if we want to. Now this is physically turned off, and it's basically default. So we didn't make any changes to this at all. So that is still there, but not visible. All right. So now that we have done everything that we really wanted to do here, added some batteries in, configured everything, got everything set up as groups, I think that is about it. So we're going to do the transition. That was an F8. We do a control space, which puts me where my camera is, and then F6 to jump back into first person view. And what we're going to do here at this point is do a Control C. So we'll get try and get the whole thing into the world here. Control C, which should copy that, which it did. We'll do an escape, which is going to delete that. But once you copy it, it's actually on the clipboard. So I'm doing an F10. I'm going to roll down here to Station Upper Tower. We're going to click on that and then replace with clipboard, which will take this thing that we have modified just a little bit and put it in the clipboard. All right, cancel to get out of that. And I think this is a great place to stop because, hey, once again, I'm over time. So this is Kenty Tiger signing off. Thank you for watching. We will catch you next time.